Here's your host, Khleif.
Welcome to another edition of How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I am absolutely thrilled you're here. And we are going to have a very interesting, intriguing, and motivational conversation today with a gentleman named Eddie Wilson. If you don't know who he is, well, I don't think I can give him a bio that does him justice. He has owned over 125 different companies, and he's not that freaking old. He's got 4,000 doors of multifamily. He builds properties. He's a humanitarian and philanthropist, and I'm very excited to have a exciting, wide-ranging conversation with you, brother. Welcome to the show here, man.
Thank you. Glad to be on.
Yeah. So, like I said, you've done so much, I don't even know where to start. So why don't you kind of give us some background, and maybe with a little more detail than I would normally ask. Usually I have people, give us a high level thing, but you've done so much that for my own edification, I'd like to hear more detail. So yeah, tell us who you are and where you came from.
Sure. I'll give you the 30,000 foot view. I'm a third generation real estate investor. Grandpa's a real estate investor, dad's a real estate investor. And I grew up in a home of an entrepreneur who really took a lot of hard licks. My dad, had failures and successes. And really because of that, he took the fear out of investing for me, because I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I go back to his worst day, But for me, it helped a lot. And so at a young age, I sold a television show to Fox, built a program, sold it. And in my 20s, had some capital to work with, and decided to purchase a business, and that business was an advertising agency. Grew that advertising agency, and by default ended up selling it. It wasn't my intention, I sold it, but I started seeing the power of creating value through companies, similar to real estate. I grew up in an investor's home, and my dad would take a property, he would create something new. There would be some sort of a new addition. He would rehab it, he would create a value add, and we create new value. And all of a sudden the value is exponentially higher than the money he put in. Well, the same thing happens with companies. And so I started realizing I could, architect a company to get value out of that exit. Meaning I would look at it, and these companies that maybe would make $1 million a year, $2 million a year, and someone would give me a 5 or 6 or 10 multiple on it. And I would sit there and look at it and go, well, would I rather operate this business for the next 20 years or have the capital now and go do something else? And so I realized there was a format to that. And so I started buying and selling companies. I've bought and sold I've owned over 125 companies. I've sold over 85. My biggest year, 2019, I sold 76 companies in 1 year. You think due diligence on a multifamily deal is tough. It's like you get into due diligence on these companies, and sometimes it takes 6 months, 8 months, a year. Well, we sold 76 of those assets in 1 year for a little over $1 billion. And I've always turned that capital right back into real estate. I'm a huge firm believer in the power of real estate, both for the taxable benefit as well as creating wealth and legacy for generations to come. So that's who I am.
That's it. Well, that was quick.
Yeah.
I love the example you gave of your father having setbacks and being able to look at that and realize that what's the worst that can happen.
Right.
What a gift that was,
Huge
honestly.
gift.
What an incredible gift that was, because, I learned that the hard way through my own failures.
Right.
And to have that as a framework is just extraordinary. Now, so I've got to ask you, what types of businesses have you owned? Because I'm just curious.
Everything.
Well,
I've owned
give me
advertising agencies, insurance companies, mortgage companies, technology companies. Today I still own 17. I own the world's largest fitness convention called Fitcon. Supplements. It's a little bit of everything. I'm a firm believer in that you should not. It's always about investing in the jockey and not the horse. So if I find a good operator, or I have a good operator that I can transition into a good company, then I always find the win.
So it's always about the operator. Okay,
absolutely.
well, that's a real.
Just
by the way, guys, he owns 4,000 apartment units. We can talk about that, but honestly, I want to talk about these businesses, okay? Because everything's going on sale with what's coming. I don't know if you believe we are, but I believe everything's going on sale, including businesses. Yeah. Certainly real estate. All the asset classes are going on sale. Sure. We're heading into some economic shit right now. It's coming, and so. I want to talk business a little more than real estate today. And so humor me, guys, okay? Because I really think that you're going to learn some great stuff today. So, so you buy any type of business. So when you're looking at a business, I'm assuming you have business brokers sending you emails all day long with different opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At a high level, how do you weed through them quickly?
Sure. I have a team, an underwriting team.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's just like multifamily,
Right.
For those of you, I know you have a huge listenership of that.
Right.
I have a team. They look at the economics of the deal.
Okay.
And I'm looking for typically distressed capital businesses or distressed people businesses. I don't look for distressed products or services.
Gotcha.
If they've got bad Google reviews, if they've, screwed people over, I have no interest in writing that ship.
But distressed person could be someone that's ill in health or needs to get out, retiree.
Correct.
So that's a distressed person. What was the other thing?
Distressed capital.
Distressed capital. They need money. They need
money.
cash.
They've got a great operation. They've got a good product. They just don't have the cash to get it over the hump. And
how do you figure that out? They probably don't share that.
Yeah. Well, typically, when you get into these deals, you're doing an NDA and you're looking behind the covers. You're looking at the balance sheet.
Gotcha.
And you can look at their cost of production. Like I find a lot of opportunity in, creating mass production where they could only, they're bootstrapping it and it's costing them $5 a product. Well, I can mass produce it for $3 a product. I can find all these wins in the distressed capital businesses.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I know that you have a company that has the private equity company you were talking about. Give that a plug, because I know you've got a convention every year that I've seen. Yeah. Talk about that for a second.
So I have two companies. I have a private equity firm called Collective Influence. That's where all my holdings are.
Okay.
That's my companies.
Gotcha.
But I have what I created years ago called the American Association of Private Lenders, the AAPL. The AAPL is an aggregation, and I'm told it's the largest aggregation of private capital in the world. Meaning these people they want to be the bank. They don't necessarily want to hold the assets. They're not operators. They just have disposable capital that they want to put into deals, both debt and equity. And some of those look like hard money lenders. Some of them look like
private office. Do you have family offices, things like that in there?
Family offices,
private equity.
Private equity. It's like it's everything. It's guys that only lend on art deals. It's like these guys, they have their niche and they have capital, and they have kind of their model.
Gotcha.
And they're just looking, and so that's a very unregulated industry.
Right.
And so I've just aggregated them for the purpose of typically giving them deal flow, putting processes around what they do. And we have a big conference every November in Las Vegas.
And it's called what?
The American Association of Private Lenders.
And that's the conference.
Yep. In Las Vegas. It's always in November. You'll typically have, 800 people there, and primarily they're all high net worth people.
So guys, do you think it'd be a great idea if you're trying to raise money to be at this AAPL conference in November? I think hell yes would be the answer.
Love to have you.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, we'll make sure and put that link in the show notes. You've probably already got that set already, correct?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. Where's it at?
It's at Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's.
And I don't necessarily have the date on me.
You don't have the dates on you? No worries.
November,
no worries. Okay.
Mid-November.
Well, I'll try to plan to attend myself.
Sure.
I think I want to be there.
Yeah,
so
love to have you.
Okay. And so, I mean, you've also got Fitcon, which is the largest, what is that?
Fitness convention.
Fitness convention.
Yeah.
No kidding.
I love building community. When you build community, so I have a company called Think Realty. It's a community of real estate investors. I have Fitcon. It's a community of fitness enthusiasts.
Okay.
I have a community called Money Is. Money Is all people who just are trying to invest out of their self-directed IRAs, and they're just trying to move capital inside of some self-directed vehicle. We have community, the AAPL. It's just a community of private lenders. To me, as I build community and I capture data, then I find the opportunity in there with these businesses.
Oh, I love that, man. That is freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
You've got the audience,
right?
And you just got to find something to add value to them and,
whatever
and
product,
make money. Right.
And they tell you what they want. So Fitcon, like one big thing we were looking into last year when we bought Fitcon was what supplements are missing. Supplements are such a red ocean space. There's a million supplements out there. One thing we found was there was a lack of nootropic supplements, and so people that were looking for a healthier version of these stimulants that they were using, like pre-workouts and stuff like that. And so we went out and we bought a nootropic supplement company, right? Like, oh, okay, then we can push it into this audience.
Interesting.
And so we're always taking that data in the community, serving the community.
Right.
They tell us what they want. They tell us what's missing, and then we go find it.
So here's a question. You've got all these various businesses, and I'm sure you're capitalizing on social media and online marketing. Do you have one team of people that markets for all these different companies?
We do. Yeah.
You do. Okay.
Yeah, we have a internal team, and then we have an external company that we have ownership in.
Okay.
And that external company we have ownership in, they are probably the best in the world at putting. They say hearts in seats, we say butts in seats, right?
Okay.
We have, for instance, we have a company called the Aspire Tour. Right now,
Okay.
we're putting the Aspire Tour on all over America. We average 3,000 to 4,000 people in a stadium every month. We do
the
that.
Aspire Tour.
Yeah.
And you just get a bunch of big name people that talk there. Like I've seen those where you get and it's a sell-a-thon.
Yep.
Yes.
Nope.
Right?
We only sell one product.
Really?
Yep. We only sell one product. And I actually lose money at Aspire Tour because what it does is it aggregates data for me. What I do out of that, though, is we have what's called the Money Is community. And we're constantly pushing people towards that Money Is community. So we actually monetize it later on.
Okay.
But no, we actually don't sell anything. We actually.
So you just have a bunch of speakers come in, motivate, educate, so on and so forth, and you're just aggregating. So you have them fill out a lengthy questionnaire about who they are, what they love, and what they like.
They spend anywhere from $50 to $500 a ticket, and they come in, and we do that every single month. So we're in Chicago this month. We're in, I think, San Diego next month.
And you have as many as 3,000 or 4,000 people there.
And Atlanta's conference, because of our speaker lineup in December, we'll have probably 7,000.
No kidding.
Yeah. Our speaker lineup is Mark Lemonis, Kevin O'Leary. Our Atlanta conference, we have like Kevin Hart and Shaq and, all kinds of people.
Yeah, I shared a stage with Shaq at a multifamily conference in Charlotte last year. He's a great guy.
He's fun.
Oh, he's not just funny. He is good people, man.
He is.
What he does for kids, and I mean, you see some of the stuff he does for kids. He buys them laptops and shoes and phones, and he's just a good guy.
He's a good guy.
A
lot of these guys are, and for me, it's important to surround myself with people like that.
Yeah.
You get around enough wealth, and you just find a lot of.
There's a lot of nefarious pieces of shit. That's what you find, honestly. And
but we have like one of our favorites is Alex Rodriguez. Like A-Rod.
Oh yeah.
He's like we've done some deals with A-Rod, but A-Rod comes and he speaks at a lot of our conferences. But that guy is a legitimate, solid businessman.
That's it.
Knows his stuff.
Yeah.
He has probably close to 30,000 multifamily doors. The guy's
no kidding.
Crushing it. Yeah.
Wow.
Crushing it. And but loves people, serves people. It's like those are the type of people.
Yeah, he was supposed to speak at that. It was a multifamily conference. He was on the lineup, and then something came up and he couldn't do it, and they brought in somebody else. But I was, felt all proud because I was on the lineup with A-Rod on the graphic, and then he canceled, which sucked. But yeah, no, I've heard nothing but good things about him as well.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, and so it's motivational and Aspire. Love the name, and so Mike, just again, so you capture as much data on these people as you can,
right?
What their wants are, what their desires are, and then you look for opportunities, businesses to buy to satisfy those results.
Satisfy them. I mean, we also aggregate a lot of accredited investors through there. We've aggregated close to 40,000 accredited investors.
How?
In the last, because we
through the Aspire thing.
So we ask them like, hey, what's the main goal? What are you looking to do? And so. We have moved a lot of people through that space. And that, just by trying to service them, see what their needs are.
Anytime you add value, it comes back to you tenfold, and you've just taken it to a whole nother level, which is extraordinary. So it actually loses money initially. Huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll spend 1.2 to 1.3 million bucks every month on that process. And then
you got to pay for some of these speakers too, as well.
That's
the big money.
Well, we lose. Yeah, I mean, so we'll sell 2,000-3,000 tickets from $50 to $500.
Right.
But we'll still lose $1 million.
No kidding.
Yeah, because you're spending a lot of money on these speakers.
Yeah.
A lot of them have become friends over the years, but for the most part, you still got to pay them.
Right. Right. So tell me about your business underwriting evaluation team.
Sure.
How many people are on it? What do they do?
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about how you finance these businesses.
Sure.
So let's start with the team first.
Team number one's my CFO. Dave's been with me for 13, 14 years.
Okay.
Great guy. He's seen all the businesses, so he's seen everything. I have a guy that is primarily, his name's Casey, and inside of my underwriting team, Casey's a part of that. I have a younger guy that's doing a lot of financial modeling. And so what we do is we get behind the curtain, we look at their financials, look at their balance sheet, their P&Ls. Then we build a model that we believe we can operate on. And so we do what's called a cash flow pro forma.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just building the pro forma of what it can be. We're actually building a cash flow modeling system inside of it, so that I know how sustainable this business is. Because there's a lot of businesses out there right now, with the onset of all these baby boomers kind of walking away from their businesses. They don't have heirs to pass it on to. They don't know what to do with their business.
Right.
There's a lot of businesses that are just laying around that you can pick up for pennies on the dollar.
Right.
But if they're not modeled out correctly, they may become a burden to you before they ever become a benefit.
I see.
And so we're doing a lot of modeling up front to determine what we can do with this business. So that team's about 4 people.
So when you're modeling, though, I mean, you have to anticipate marketing costs. You have to anticipate sales.
Right.
You have to make projections based on what you think you can improve. So it's not just financial.
No.
There's a lot more to it.
There's a lot to it. And then also you're looking at personnel costs. You're looking at really there's 5 pillars that you're spending money on. You're spending money on leadership.
Right.
Do I have somebody to run this company?
Okay.
Personnel, what does it cost to actually get out of this company what it's worth?
Okay.
Your operations, that's where you find all your efficiencies. Your finance, right? So a lot of them have financial issues. And then, lastly, it's your marketing and sales. And so those are kind of like our 5 pillars that we're looking at and determining what our cost is of opportunity on that business.
Interesting. Now, you said that you always you look for the jockey, not the horse. Yeah. And so you're looking at a business, you've got to determine who's going to run that business.
Correct.
So are you trying to hire people to do that, or are these people you already know? Or
Yes, one benefit of running over 125 companies is I've kept a lot of those people with me. I've built a good bullpen of people that I know what they're good at. They're good at a business that's a service-based business or a product-based business. And so I know what their strengths are, so I can call on them to run these companies. Or I might find someone who's actually built a company and they just don't have enough capital to get it to where it needs to go, but they're a great operator.
That already owns it.
And
so you keep them in there.
I'll invest with them.
Gotcha.
And leave them in as a part of the deal. You know? And so
you see that a lot, obviously, with venture capital in Silicon Valley. They'll come in, they'll bring in a C-level suite to, and then they argue and they want to kick them out sometimes. And that you hear about all that.
And we have a shared service arrangement at our private equity firm called Collective Influence. And so in there, we've got a CFO, we've got, operational people.
So they have resources.
So they've got tons of resources that they would never have access to otherwise.
Gotcha. Now, you also have an operating system that I know you call the Empire Operating System. And we talked about this, and it's the same acronym as Traction's operating system, which is Entrepreneur's operating system, EOS, which we use in both my businesses now. And I know yours is similar, and you implement that in all of your businesses.
Yeah, and there's about 2,500 other companies nationwide that use it. Okay. And really, the big difference, all operating systems have a similar process.
Right. Core values. You come up with your core values. You come up with your.
You're planning out your future. You're stepping back in. You're creating pathways towards that. I mean, a lot of them are similar.
Right.
The difference between ours is I believe that businesses exist in one of 5 phases.
Okay.
And to the degree that you understand the phase of business that you're in, you can create the next step to the next phase. So let me just go over the 5 phases real quick. You have startup. That's really like a predetermined amount of time and predetermined amount of money. Then you move into perseverance. That's the pre-profit phase. Then you move from perseverance into viability. Now you've actually got the right people in the right seats. You're making a little bit of money. It's profitable. Then you move into scale. Scale should never be done when you're still in perseverance. You really should effectively move into viability, then pour gas on the fire.
Yeah.
Then the last phase is succession. What do I do with my business now that I've hit the ceiling? That doesn't mean you have to sell it, but maybe somebody else should run it. Maybe you should move into a board seat. So because we have the 5 phases, I can accurately put on a map where every business is every single quarter, and I can help others do the same thing so that they know the next thing. Grant Cardone's a buddy of my partner.
He's got something very similar to this. By the way, him and Brandon have something very similar.
Yep.
You talk about these different phases.
Yep.
Dawson. I went to their business event just like 3 months ago. And I got some decent insights.
It's really, really good stuff.
I got beat up by his freaking salespeople, though. Yeah. Good God. I couldn't walk out. I couldn't go to the bathroom without having somebody, attack me. But
no one will ever accuse Grant of not selling.
Oh my God. It was like, please. I wanted a sign that said F you on my freaking shirt. Leave me alone. But it was that bad.
The one thing that, you go to a Grant conference, though, and he tells you 10X your life, 10X or whatever, 10X. And you'll see one guy that's sitting there and he'll run out and he will 10x his business. The other guy will do the exact same thing and crash and burn. Why is that? And that's because if you don't know what phase of business you're in, you can't architect the next step. And if you take the next right step, you get growth. Take the next wrong step, you get a diminished result.
Yeah.
And so, that's the foundational
and
piece.
that's where you see where businesses will grow too fast.
Right.
That's it. And it ties into these steps that you're talking about.
Now, let me dispel a myth.
Okay.
Businesses can grow too fast if they don't have the right foundation. If you firmly get a business into viability, it can't ever grow too fast. The problem with businesses, they don't firmly get into viability.
Gotcha.
I built an insurance company that I bought for $40 million.
Wow.
I took that insurance company from $40 million to $880 million in top line in 4.5 years. I went from 60 employees to over 4,000 employees.
Wow.
You say, well, that's probably too fast. Well, it really wasn't, because it had a good enough foundation that we could pour gas on the fire and it didn't hurt our customers. It didn't hurt our service. It's like
you must have had a hell of a C-level team in that thing.
Absolutely. But the thing is in true viability, you've built the right foundation, then you can scale it.
And that's what you'd need. Then obviously you'd need all those those C-level players. So talk about how you finance it. How do you finance a $40 million deal?
There's some 100 different ways to finance
give us some examples on some of these.
I would say that primarily my favorite type of finance is when the owner holds equity and I allow the performance of the business to actually pay him an exponential return that he wouldn't expect if he were to operate the business himself.
So you put in capital, you put in resources, and you hold that carrot out there for the owner that already knows the business to make exponential returns to stay in there and kick ass.
My question oftentimes to a business owner as I'm negotiating is, I could walk away. I could give you $2 million and you could walk away. You walk away with $2 million in your pocket and it's a good day. I could put $5 million in resources and take your $2 million business and turn it into a 10 or 15 or $20 million business. And I could go sell that business at a 6 or 8 times EBITDA. And you could walk away with $10 million in your pocket in 2 or 3 years. Do you want to take the ride with me based on my experience? Or do you want the $2 million?
Oh, fantastic.
I'm ready to go either way.
What a fantastic conversation.
Oftentimes they want a little bit of cash off the table because they want a little bit of security. And so instead of me paying them $2 million, I'm paying them a couple $100,000 or something to make them feel secure. And that's usually how I'm doing it.
So talk about the resources. So you've got a COO that they can lean on. You've got a CFO they can lean on. What else? Marketing. You've got marketing and sales.
We have marketing and sales. We have a marketing and sales agency that we own and operate.
Wow.
We have one of our big tools we have is we have a man by the name of Larry Yatch. He led SEAL Team 3. He's a former Navy SEAL.
Cool.
Larry is primarily dealing with mindset and traumas, right? So like Larry has mastered the art of understanding the traumas in your life and helping you break through ceilings. And that is actually...
So he's a coach.
He's a coach.
Yeah.
And he's internally dealing with their traumas because...
And he's helping these owners that you're bringing along.
These leaders, most of the time, I would say 80% to 90% of the time, the problem in the business is the leader. It's nothing else.
It's always the bottleneck.
It's always the bottleneck. And
and
it's typically tied to their traumas. It's typically they took a hard knock and they all of a sudden hit the ceiling and they can't get past it. It's their limiting beliefs that prevent them from taking that next step.
Oh,
right.
Love this.
So for me, Larry's one of our most valuable assets. Yeah. Larry goes in and he deals with them and he calls them out on it, when they can't get through it. And he forces them through it. And oftentimes he'll come back to me and say, I can't get them through it. We either have to pick a new jockey, right? Or there has to be an adjustment here.
Wow.
But we give them every shot to break through their own limiting beliefs. To me, that's one of our secret sauces. For sure.
That's brilliant. And I have to brag for a minute. We do the exact same thing. I've got high performance coaching in my coaching program.
Sure.
And that's the reason my students are so freaking successful.
Yeah.
Because we work through their courage, their ability to influence, their productivity, their relationships, even their mission and purpose in life, stuff that's bigger than the real estate. So part of our coaching includes that. Now other people have tried to model it, but I've got certified high performance coaches and they kill it. And
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely does. So it's really fascinating to hear that you do the same thing. And of course, if he's a SEAL, he's not afraid to kick their asses to make things happen.
And they'll listen to him if he speaks.
Well, of course they will. They're certainly not going to fight him. So no, that's really interesting. Very interesting. Well, you put together this hell of a secret sauce framework here, brother.
Yeah.
Very impressive. I don't usually gush about stuff, but man, this is freaking impressive to me.
you.
And I'm honestly, you know, part of one of my loves is entrepreneurship. I built 27 businesses, and I don't call them failures when they fail. I call them seminars. And, you know, that was a $50 million seminar in 2008 and 9. And, you know, several of my businesses have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most have been spectacular flaming seminars, you know, and because I never had any formal training. I didn't go to, I barely passed high school. And, you know, it's a shame. I will tell you, I regret that. Honestly, I regret not going to college to learn how to read P&Ls, to learn how to read balance sheets, to understand sales and marketing and operations and things that I had to learn through trial and error, you know? But I freaking love talking about entrepreneurship. Now, guys, I know we haven't talked about real estate at all here, but I'm sure you're getting value. If you're not, you're in the wrong place. And I love you, but go listen to somebody else, frankly, because this is really good stuff here. Let's shift gears for a minute.
Sure.
So let's talk about the real estate. Okay. So you take your profits from these businesses, and you're in 4,000 doors, you said, all as a general partner, or
so it's a mixture of GP, KP, LP. I mean, I'm all over.
All of it. Joint ventures, everything.
Joint ventures, all of it.
Where are your assets located?
Florida, Texas, Georgia, a little bit of California. I've sold off most of that, and Ohio.
Yeah. I've got assets in all those states. Well, not California. I don't know. But everywhere else I've got assets.
Yeah.
But okay. Love it. And did you have any education there? Did you align with anybody? Or
not really.
No?
I third generation real estate investor. And so I took a lot of what my father did, his successes and failures. He primarily stayed in small multifamily. Single family, small multifamily.
Where, by the way?
Ohio, primarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where in Ohio, by the way?
Northeast Ohio, like Akron area.
Uh-huh.
That's where I grew up at.
Okay.
And then went south for college, went to Atlanta, and kind of stuck around there.
Okay.
But yeah, for me, I really didn't have an education, and I really didn't have a mentor. And so that was a lot of trial and error for me. And I've spent a lot of money in real estate.
Lost some money too?
I've lost some money, sure.
So you believe in mentors then, I take it?
100%.
Yeah.
And there's a fast track to, it's like you talked about business school, right? Like I have a degree from an Ivy League school in business.
Wow.
That fast tracks you in certain areas.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
And so I always say that, you know, my $250,000 education, I could probably teach somebody in about 5 minutes. But the thing is you need somebody to actually teach you what that, you know, it's like there isn't a lot of depth to that education I had, but it was enough that it did everything for me.
And it helped,
you know?
and it helped prevent mistakes.
Huge
and mistakes that I promise you I made. And, you know, and that's my regret. I mean, you know, I tell people, you know, I get asked all the time, do I really need college? And a lot of times I say no. I think it depends on what you're going to do.
Sure.
But like you said, you know, I totally believe. I show this picture where of lanyards that I hang around my neck, and I have my arms out like this, and there's literally like 200 or 300 of them.
Yeah.
I have a picture of that I show. That's my education.
Sure.
You know, and you saw my library downstairs. I've got thousands of books, and you know, I'm self-taught, and I've learned through the thought leadership space.
Sure.
You know, and we know a lot of the same people in that space, and you know, I'm glad to hear that you believe in mentors. I mean, you know, I tell the story, you know, Michael Jordan at the height of his career had 5 coaches. You know, he had a relationship coach, a strength coach, a head coach, assistant coach, nutrition coach. And, you know, he's the best in the world. And so, you know,
I'm a huge proponent of coaching.
Yeah.
It's just, can you get there faster?
Right.
And to
it's
me,
just shorten the learning curve. I'm sorry, pay for speed, really, is what
right.
you're doing.
Pay for speed.
You're paying for speed. That's the bottom line. Could you do it on your own? Yeah, I did.
Right.
But I wish I hadn't.
Right.
Honestly, I'd probably be on the back of a 300-foot yacht right now.
Right.
You know, so
I believe in the model of creating success through 10,000 hours invested, right? Like it's that whole tipping point.
What is that?
Model.
Blink? Oh, tipping point.
Yeah,
That's
tipping
it. Tipping point. Yeah.
And it's that, you know, as Gladwell talks about it, it's like you put 10,000 hours in anything and you're an expert.
Right.
What you have to do is find out ways to
shorten that
out. And the way that you do that is through mentorship.
Yeah. I love it. So you didn't have a mentor in that. So you made some snafus in the real estate space. Well, I'm glad to hear. Honestly, that pleases me because you're so freaking successful. It's like, damn, I want to hear some failure too. Damn it, you know, from coming from somebody who has had more freaking seminars than you can imagine.
Yeah.
But so what size assets do you like to buy now? Typically over 100?
Typically over 100.
Yeah.
obviously the more money you have, the more money you have to move. And that's my issue today is I have to move larger amounts of capital.
Oh, damn. Shoot. Oh, wow, man. Let me find my freaking violin.
That's right. But it is. It's like and honestly, it's actually easier to find an asset that's smaller that performs better than it is to find bigger assets that perform at the same, speed. And so,
and you're competing with institutional grade and money, and sometimes that cost of capital for those people is very low, right?
Yeah. They're fine with a 4 or 5% rate of return. Their cap rates are way less than what I would ever consider. So because of that, I don't play in the big Class A's often, because the institutional guys are just gobbling that stuff up, and they're fine with lower rates of return. Right. So I like the bigger, B pluses. I like the value add space. I am doing some new builds down in Southwest Florida, but
that's what you said.
For the most part, I still like the value add space because, and right now there's blood in the water right now.
Man,
I'm picking up deals.
Yeah,
and
they're coming,
and it's speeding up.
Are you partnered with some operators in the space?
I partner up with a ton of operators.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. It goes back to jockeying out the horse. Like if I believe in the jockey and they bring me a deal, I'm all in.
You're in.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I have to move capital, and so I don't think I could build a big enough team to deploy all the capital I need to deploy with an internal group. So I rely on partners.
I see. Interesting. Interesting. So let's shift gears now, actually. You are a man of faith, and I know that you are also a philanthropist. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So at some point in your life, you're going to get to the place where you realize no amount of money is going to give me satisfaction. No amount of deals are going to give me, fulfillment. And I chased it all in my life.
So when did you have that epiphany? How old were you?
I was in my late 20s.
Wow,
thankfully.
That's early.
Thankfully.
I was freaking 40 before I had mine. I tell the story about an epiphany I had. But
I got to a place where I was very successful, and I remember thinking I have, and again, get out your violin, but I had more money than I knew what to do with, right? Like I don't know what to do with the money. And I was still highly depressed, still wondered, still laid in bed at nighttime wondering, like, why do we exist? What's the purpose of all of this? Because no cars or houses, really bring happiness. And that's when I got to a place where I started searching heavy for like the meaning of life, and is there a God, and like all of these things that like you get to a place where you lack fulfillment, you start going down these pathways. And for me, it was a very deep spiritual process. And I got to a place.
Just elaborate on it a little bit. So what did you do?
Yeah. So I grew up in a very faith-based home.
Okay.
And faith was a series of do's and don'ts growing up. But it was never a relationship.
Fear-based or?
A lot of fear-based. Yeah.
Right.
And one of my dad's favorite statements in my life was, he said, Eddie, he's like, God will help anybody, but he won't help a lazy man. Like I heard that like 10,000 times in my life. Like he would say, he helped David and he was an adulterer, but he doesn't help that lazy man. Show me one time in the Bible. So like it was very much like beat into my head, like hard work, faith, all of that, which I actually.
Well, that's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, and I actually appreciate that. So like I don't want to paint it in a bad light.
Right.
But very much the church, like institutional religion, for me became very much a series of do's and don'ts. So then
control.
So then I lacked a relationship. I lacked true fulfillment. It was all performance based.
Gotcha.
And so that was the big journey for me, was who is God? Who is this person of Jesus? Like who, like all of these things that you have to come to a place where it's like, you have to really get to a place where you're solid and you understand what you believe. And the greatest part is it comes down to faith. There's a lack of evidence in a lot of these areas. So then you're stepping beyond evidence, right? Which is where faith comes in.
Right.
But for me, where the true fulfillment came in was when I decided that fulfillment was living beyond myself, and it was making an impact on others that couldn't make it on themselves, for themselves.
Right.
When you could impact someone else who can't afford something for themselves, who can't do it on their own, who can't feed themselves, there's true fulfillment in that. And so we've started 2 nonprofits. The biggest one that I operate today is called Impact Others, and that really is the whole premise of impacting people.
What are some of the initiatives?
So we have 4 pillars.
Okay.
We primarily feed malnourished children around the world.
Wow.
We feed about 4,000 kids a day. Then we feed them and educate them. Secondly, we house orphans. And so we house also close to 2,000 orphans
Where
globally.
primarily?
16 regions we're in right now. We're in different parts of Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt. Then we're in the Philippines. We're in Thailand. We're in Honduras, Ecuador, Brazil, Argentina.
How big is that team?
So I have 3 people in the U.S. The rest are all international. So I have regional directors that build that. The cool part about that is we go back and we operate on empire. So I believe that everything we do should have a fiduciary responsibility. So I want to make sure I feed these kids and educate these kids, but I better build a sustainable resource that if I walk away, they better be able to be fed and educated.
So you work on self-sustaining.
Absolutely.
Oh man, you know it's so crazy. Is I've been threatening to do that for 2 decades. Build self-sustaining schools.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed, brother.
So what we do is we do water projects. There's so many issues with clean water in the world, but then we build sustainable businesses. For instance, we just finished a chicken farm in the country of Guyana. That chicken farm
can support the community.
Supports the community. It'll essentially it employs 8 people. It actually provides protein for all of our feeding centers and orphanages, and then it profits after all said and done about $2,000 a month after it pays all of its bills, which then allows us to go out and build more community.
Wow.
We've built a taxi company in Ghana, a woodworking plant in Laos, a buffalo farm in India.
Where's the funding come from?
So we fund it.
You fund it.
Yeah, we fund it. And that's been the benefit of all the activity I've had. So if you take my life, it's really 3 areas. I create active income through my businesses. I then create passive income through real estate.
Right.
Then I endow my efforts south of real estate by this passive income stream that's just always coming in through multifamily and other real estate assets. So it's like my active flows into passive. It gives me a taxable benefit. It also then creates passive income that then flows into all these avenues. So we fund it. We take some donations, but I think 80-90% of everything we do is just self-funded. So
good for you, man.
Yeah.
Good. My hat's off to you, brother.
That's where fulfillment is.
So fucking awesome. I can't even begin to tell you how awesome that is.
Thank you.
Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment.
Right. How
achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. Boom, that's it.
Yeah.
But fulfillment's an art. You got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids.
Yeah.
I've fed 140,000 kids over the last 23 years.
It's awesome.
Nothing like what you're doing though, man, because I really want to do what you're doing because they tell you, you can feed them fish or you can teach them how to fish.
Right.
And I'm just feeding fish and I want to teach. And so you've really inspired me to get off my ass and make something happen, but super impressive.
Thank you.
Good for you, man. Seriously. So personally, are you married, kids?
Married, 3 boys.
No kidding.
I've got 22 down to 10.
No kidding.
So 22, 17, and 10. They're all spread out.
And you live in Atlanta, or where do you live?
So I live in Jacksonville, Florida, Ponte Vedra Beach now.
Okay.
Yeah, we moved to Florida last year for tax purposes.
Do you like it?
I love it. Yeah. I love Florida.
Yeah, me too, man.
We've always had houses down here, but we never lived here.
Yeah, I could be a poster child for the Florida Chamber. I love it here so much. I mean, forgetting not just the politics, which I love, but just the climate and everything else. It's safe and love it. Well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you coming down here. It's a pleasure to meet you. I definitely want to stay in touch. I'm super impressed with what you're doing. Seriously.
Thank you. And I want to say the same to you. I mean, for years, obviously I've been in the real estate space and I've always heard your name and always in high regard. I've met some of your students. I know some of the James Kandasamy who's invested in your deals.
Right.
And so I appreciate you and I appreciate what you've given back to this community. As a 3rd generation real estate investor, to see somebody who's giving what I was given through osmosis, but to give it to people who desire it, need it, want it. I appreciate your work as well.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot. Thank you. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow. And they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. See, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now, we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.